Hey there, emerging expat. You're tuned in to Let's Move to Portugal. I'm Victoria from Expats Everywhere's podcast, and I have the distinct honor of bringing you, YouTube travelers, and our resident of Portugal experts, Expats Everywhere's Josh and Kaylee. Each week they'll inspire, they'll educate, and they'll accompany you on your journey to Portuguese residency. This week on Let's Move to Portugal, Leanne shares her journey of moving from the United States to Braga, Portugal. She discusses the reasons behind her move, the challenges of adapting to a new culture, and the importance of building a community.
Hey expats and travelers alike, welcome back to Expats Everywhere presents Let's Move to Portugal podcast. And today we are out of studio, we are traveling, we're in Singapore, but we have a special episode for you today. Kaylee, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I mean, obviously, like being out of studio and having to record and do all the tech stuff is not great. As you can see, there's not a lot of light on us. But if you're listening on podcasts, you probably will just hear a little bit of a difference in the mic, and then that's it.
Yeah, Josh hates it. He was trying to set up the lights and everything, and of course, nothing ever goes the right way, but it is what it is. We'll go ahead and roll with it, and we'll be back to Portugal next week, actually. So, yeah.
So we've been traveling for about a week and a half now, and we just went to a conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. Didn't expect really at the beginning of the year to be going to a conference, especially a conference like that, but Nomad Capitalist reached out to us. We did a collaboration with them, and then we got tickets to Nomad Capitalist Live in Kuala Lumpur. We will report back on what that conference was like, maybe who the conference is for, and what we got out of it, and if we would go again, that type of stuff. We'll break that down because really that conference is pretty exclusive.
It is, yeah. They have a limited number of tickets that they sell, and they have a hard cutoff, and you can't record there. They don't record it and put it anywhere, so it was interesting. But yeah, we'll break that down for you in a video to give you more information on it to see if it's something that you would like to do.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty crazy. Like, there was no recording. We could take still pictures, and we did, so that we can, I guess, build out a video that hopefully makes sense. When you can't shoot video,
it's hard to make a video.
And you try to make a video, it's very challenging.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I got a bunch of still pictures, so I hope to integrate that into kind of a talking head video where we do a little bit of this and explain what actually happened inside of there, because it might allow you to spend a couple thousand dollars well by going to the conference, or save you a couple $1,000s by not going to the conference because you don't need it.
I will say this, a lot of people look at Nomad Capitalist as a tax place, like all about taxes, and the conference did give more than that. So we will unpack that. It wasn't just about taxes and tax havens and everything. So we'll unpack more about that, but that's really what got us over to Asia, because I think at the beginning of the year we weren't thinking about coming to Asia either. It's quite far, obviously, for our daughter and in school, and there's a lot to explore closer to us, but we did come to Asia, and since we used to live in Singapore, we said, well, if we're going all the way to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, we are definitely coming back to Singapore for a visit. So that's where we are right now.
Yeah. So this week we have Leanne on the podcast. Can you tell us about your interview with Leanne?
Yes, Leanne is amazing. I thought it would be a bit of a cackle fest, like a lot of laughing. It wasn't, I mean, we laughed a little bit, but we kept it together. She's a lot of fun to talk to, very easy to talk to. And she and her husband just recently moved here, and they decided to move to Braga. So she talks about why they chose Braga, how they came on the D7, what that process was like, what it's like being away from friends and family and going back, because they had to go back for a wedding soon after they came here, or not had to, they chose to go back. And so what it was like moving and then being back in the US and then coming back, and just chatting with people about why they chose to move to Portugal and the interest that people had. So it was a fun conversation.
Awesome. Well, let's get to it. All right, before we get started, let's talk about this week's sponsor, Green Ocean Advisors.
Well, I think the world right now can feel a little chaotic, but that doesn't mean that your finances have to, because I think when your finances feel chaotic, everything is just out of whack, right?
Yep, and Green Ocean Advisors will help you put together a plan to weather all those financial storms that may come your way. It's a little tricky whenever you make a move. You're often asking yourself questions like, is it time to invest in AI? What's up with that?
Ooh, AI, that's a good one. Or how about crypto? I think a lot of people talk about crypto or Bitcoin when it comes to Portugal because of the taxes. So is that for you?
Maybe closer to home is, should I sell my home before moving to Portugal, or should I rent it out?
Everyone's situation really is different, so it's good to talk to a financial advisor about your specific portfolio before you make the move, or even if you're already in Portugal.
Now, click the link in the description section below or in the show notes, depending on how you're consuming this right here. And be sure to click the one that gets you a free 15-minute consultation. It's specifically to Expats Everywhere. Thank you, John, for that. Now, on to the show.
Leanne, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today. I'm really excited to talk to you because you've recently moved to Portugal just a few months ago, and you live in Braga, which isn't the most common place, I think, to move to. So we'll talk about that. But first of all, tell us, where did you move from and why did you choose Portugal?
So we moved from just north of Chicago in the United States, and we chose Braga. We chose Portugal because we just wanted, from different previous trips, just that quality of life. It's beautiful. We really have wanted to experience a different culture for many, many years. And then just all these events that have led up to this, we picked Portugal. Picking Braga was a chore. When we first came, we came to we took Lisbon. We were in Algarve for a while. We were in Douro Valley, and that was like just a vacation. And then it was after that vacation, we thought, oh, we really would like to explore. Do we really want to do this? And so then we came back a few years later, and we chose 3 cities to look into. And one was Setúbal, one was Porto, and Braga was the third. I want to be by the ocean. We were in Foz do Douro, which is, amazing. And so that was also a really good choice. Braga was the choice that both my husband made. We had family that was here too, and that's what they made. I was like a holdout because I really want to be by the ocean, and it's it's near. You can go, but it's not like right out there. Here's a funny story. I was super sick one March, like I missed 2 weeks of work. And during that time, I watched a lot of Rafael de Furia, and he lives in Braga. And I was convinced after that, actually, because of just a lot of things. Like he really sold it because he said it's a town where it's big enough that there's a lot of amenities, lots of things to do, but small enough that you'll run into people that you know. And we were moving from a community that it was really hard to move from because of those relationships that we had made. And I thought, well, I would like to be somewhere where somebody's like, yeah, you'll run into people that you know. And so I'm really glad we did. It was the right decision.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you don't think your husband got you sick intentionally and said, here, watch all these videos about Braga?
Yeah, you would think, right? We'll get her to change her mind.
Okay, so yes, Rafael, we've done a few videos with him. Really nice guy, but really enjoys Braga. And of course, this is what's amazing because we have friends there, we have friends in Lisbon, we have friends in Porto, and people like different cities for different reasons, right? There's different feels, and there's different vibes to them. So it makes sense that Braga was like fitting that vibe, that kind of community that you wanted. So you didn't need it to be super big, but you also didn't need it to be super small either. So have you found that it's been a good balance since you've been there?
Oh my gosh. So I got to tell you the running into person story. So like we arrived at the end of June. Like literally the next night, one of the Facebook groups for Braga expats had like a question and answer video. And so we joined it. And then the next morning, so like literally less than 12 hours later, we're in a coffee shop, and I keep looking over this lady who walked up and was talking to someone next to the table, or the table next to us. And I was like, I think that's the person from the video last night. And so she looked over at me and had this like look on her face. And so she came over and I'm like, are you Melody? And she's like, are you Leanne? And we were like, that's crazy. I ran into her the next day walking her dog. And then we were having lunch with them the day after that. So in 3 days, I saw the same woman. And like, we've only been here like almost 3 months, right? But there's this other couple that we met, and I've run into them at the grocery store, walking down the street. Like it's meeting that desire, I think, that we had, that it's a bigger town and it's not like every day we run into somebody we know, but when we do, it's just that confirmation that this is the right place right now.
Easier to build community, I think, right? There's a big expat community there that
For
does a lot of stuff
sure.
together, right? They have meetups
Oh my
and everything,
gosh,
don't
they
they?
do. They have tons of meetups. I go to like a knitting group once a month. Jamie my husband just started going to a men's group. He's gone a couple times. They meet once a month. Once a month, they have these big, like a huge one by the gardens. We've gone once, and there's just a lot of people. They do, and there's even things that I just don't even know about. It's a great, really supportive, positive group. So yeah,
that's
definitely.
good to know. How did you find out about like the knitting group and these different groups? How did you find out about those?
So I joined and there's a couple different expat Facebook groups. The one that I joined is called Expats plus Braga. And I think it's because it's not just expats, right? Because there are other people like in the community. There's this local guy that has a electronic store that a lot of us buy appliances and things like that from him, and he's in the group. And so the group gets fed by people who are from Portugal and then just from all over the world, really, that are here. And so within that group, they'll like, we have this group and this meetup and this thing. And I mean, even community service things, like within that group, there's another group, and it's really set for helping expats age in place here in Braga. But because we're all pretty much doing fine, they do also community things. So they did like a backpack drive and did some school supplies for local schools. And they do other volunteering, which I like is just amazing, because then it just gets you in the community, right?
Yeah, definitely. And it's a mix of expats and locals that go to these things. And yeah, so that's great. So you're not necessarily living in like an expat bubble, that you are meeting locals and Portuguese as well. And there's a lot of Brazilians in Braga too, aren't there?
Yeah, a lot of Brazilians too. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. How's your Portuguese coming along?
So you want to hear another funny story?
Sure.
Okay, so we did Duolingo for a year and a half until we found out it was Brilliant. So
well, that's okay. You're in Braga. It's not as bad.
I know, that's true. So I learned some words, right? And some of it is working, right? And people are amazing. Like, we know how to say no falo português, desculpe. And they'll like give us, I mean, like one of the first days we had lunch, the waiter was basically giving us a Portuguese lesson every time he came to our table, which was awesome. There's a restaurant around the corner we've gone to a couple times, and same, the waitress came, like, she's like, we're trying to speak Portuguese. So she spoke mostly in Portuguese. And if we had that blank look on her face, then she would be like, oh, and she would help us out. Ironically, one day my phone rang, and I don't know why I thought I should answer it, but I did. And the person was speaking Portuguese, and I couldn't understand a word they were saying. And they kept trying. And I'm like, desculpe. And so then I have my phone on speaker, I'm in Google Translate, and I'm like doing like, can I text you? Can you email me? Because I just couldn't understand. And then I heard him say marido, and I'm like, marido James? I'm like, yes, my husband's name is James. And so he comes, and he's on his iPad, and he's like trying to record what they're saying so we can see what they're saying. I looked after they finally hung up, not in mad. They didn't seem mad. I think that we were both just like at nothing.
This is it. It's not going anywhere.
There was no English on their end, no Portuguese on this end. 14 minutes. It was recorded on my phone.
Oh my.
And then I didn't know what to do, right? Because I don't know anybody that can help me, right? And so I was like, two people I can choose. Marco, the realtor, who was amazing, or the guy at the shoe shop that I bought some shoes because he was super kind, and I'm like, maybe he would help me. I don't know. Anyway, I called Marco, and Marco said, give me the number. So he called, and he texts back, and he's like, it was the school where you signed up for lessons. They wanted you to come and sign up in person. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, come on,
ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
I signed up for lessons on purpose because I don't know what it was. It was just funny. It's funny now. I had a mental breakdown that day and pretty much cried,
yeah. But it's like, oh, it's almost like, clearly let me into your classes. I need the Portuguese lessons.
Right? Yeah,
but
it was pretty
what's
obvious
funny
then.
is I was doing a podcast with someone who took the language exam recently for citizenship. So they go in to get that certificate, and she's talking about, you know, they're doing the instructions. It's very specific about like, you don't put your name here, da, da, da. And I was like, did they do that in English? And she was like, no, it was all in Portuguese. So isn't that hilarious?
Wow.
That she said the good thing is beforehand they give you videos of like what to expect. So it's kind of like you already know, okay, don't put your name here, or you have to have your phone off or whatever. But it's almost silly in the sense that these people are in here taking an A2 test.
Yeah.
That's a little like, you at least do the instructions in English so that people don't do something silly that messes up that could, you know, invalidate the actual test. Right. But no, it's like this. That's not how it works here. So you just got to roll with it, right?
Right. That's just what I've learned basically from you guys, but like just other research that we've done is like, you just have to be chill. You have to just go with whatever's happening. Everything will sort itself out in some way at some point. And so, yeah, it's been a lesson.
Yeah, that's good. Good. Less stressful that way, I think. Yeah, relax.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, so you came in on the D7. You and your husband both retired.
We did retire. We actually, we weren't going to start the process until March 2024, March 2024, because we weren't going to come here until September. But then in October, when it was announced about NHR, we used some resources and were able to go through an expression of interest. So that's how we ended up. We do have NHR. But that meant that we needed to be here sooner. So instead of coming in September 2024, we needed to be here in June 2024. So then we applied for the D7, and since we had done the expression of interest, we had, you know, most of the paperwork already. Mm-hmm. And then we submitted our paperwork in March to Washington, D.C. in 2024. We got approval in April, and then we retired in June. And then 2 weeks later, we moved to Portugal.
Okay, so I know people are going to be like, what? You applied in March and you got approved in April.
I know, it's crazy.
1 month. Yeah. Were you shocked at that?
I was shocked at that. I was like, we were watching like the other Facebook groups, because there's one in particular, the Americans, the Friends PT, I think is what it's called. And they have a tracker. And so I was like watching, and people were saying it was taking, it was like in the 60-day range, and then it was like 5 weeks, at least at that time. 5 weeks was starting to be about average, and that's about what it was.
Okay.
So I was surprised, but not like I was excited.
Yeah, because some people are hearing like 4 months and stuff, and I'm like, no. I mean, that's not common. That's not common, though.
But I feel like I don't know, it's like a wave, because I know another couple that they put theirs in May, and they just heard.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah,
Depends.
It's like, yeah, I think it
really depends.
Where
also,
it is and the time of, I don't know.
Typical Portugal, because I mean, I've known people who have done it, and like 2 weeks later, they've gotten it back, which is crazy. Yeah. I tell people that's not the norm, but that does exist. So it's just ebbs and flows. And I mean, you know, 60 business days is a good like time frame to think, you know, give or take a little bit in your mind. Right. But okay. And so you went through DC and you did the paperwork yourself, right?
We did do the paperwork ourselves because we used you. Because we did the course you do was amazing. Like that, I don't know how many times I watched it over and over and over. I appreciated that I could go back and do the checkoff list. But yeah, we did. I mean, we used a lot of resources to get our bank account and all the things. Like, I don't need to repeat all the things. Everybody knows if you're going for it, you know the things you have to do. And then we had them all in, you know, plastic sleeves in the binder, and it was a lot. It was pretty stressful. When I was going over, like, what was the process? When did we start? I was like, I was really stressed at that time. There was a lot going on.
Yeah. There's a lot of uncertainty, I think, which is difficult. You don't really know what it's going to be like. You hear all these horror stories and how inefficient it is, which, you know, some of that is valid, but it can be stressful because you just don't know what to expect, how long you're going to wait, if you have everything. But okay, but you used our course. Everything worked out. All the resources
highly
in there. Thank you. Thank you. Good. Okay, so then you just moved your timeline up a little bit and you retired earlier than you had planned.
So we had originally planned to retire in 2026.
Okay.
But then COVID hit and we were like, we reassessed what we wanted to do because it was
a lot of people
right?
reassessed.
We're like, a lot of people are like, I think I don't want to do this for the rest. And my husband probably could have stayed working and I was ready to not. So we just made all the arrangements that we could over the like 2 years, a year and a half to be able to leave early. And so I would say like probably, I don't remember when we actually finally made the decision, but like within a year decided to, instead of 2026, to do 2024.
Okay.
But then our time frame moved from like, because we had a wedding in Maine in September that we were going to. And so we were like, oh, we'll just fly when we go to the wedding, then we'll just fly to Portugal from there. But then when we had to be here more than 6 months, then we knew we had to get here by June. Like we got here June 25th.
For the NHR. Yeah. Because that was, that threw everybody for a loop with that one. Like, hey, by the way, we're getting rid of this. Boom.
So and if you get it, you need to be here 6 months plus 1 day. Go.
Yeah, exactly. Did you end up going back for that wedding then?
So we did. It was just last weekend. We actually ended up being the officiants for the wedding, which was something we've never done before. And that was amazing. It was magical. And that was an interesting thing because going back to the United States but on vacation, right? Yeah. Because this is our home. And like, what was that going to be like coming back? And I a little bit imagined it was going to be kind of hard coming back because, it's hard to leave your family and we'd been gone not very long, but actually it was good. It felt good to say goodbye again. We didn't see all our family. It was a East Coast family and it was good to come back. It's good to be home.
To come back home, right?
Home. Yeah.
I think that's a difficult thing for people because they'll say something about the U.S. and they'll call it home, and I'm always like, is it home?
No,
because
this is our home.
It is a shift. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you can't always go back to the U.S., but like now your home is Portugal or wherever you end up moving to. So you can of course move again. But yeah, having the mindset of like, no, my home is Portugal, and you go back like you're on vacation. It's different.
Yeah. It was interesting because somebody would say like, if they asked, because you meet people at weddings too, and they're like, oh, where are you from? Or they either say, where are you from? Or where did you come from? Those are two different questions, right?
Yeah.
Where are you from? I'm from the United States. Where did you come from? I came from Portugal. And that like always, what?
Were people like, what? Were they quite curious?
Yeah. They were. Yeah. They were. And so then it, came into that conversation that we are used to. We've got the little elevator speech now.
Yeah. Is the Expats Everywhere, is our stuff in the elevator speech? Hey,
always. Yeah.
Hey, by the way, if you need help.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you moved your timeline up from when you thought you would retire and everything. Mm-hmm. So you had to look into financials and make sure that it was doable, right? Like financially that you could do it earlier than you had initially planned.
Yeah, like we had done that years before. And then I mean, literally, I feel like we're like your groupies and we pretty much use like every one of your resources. So we did use one of your resources also for just looking at like financially, what can we do? And then the other part is, and this is a little bit like not traditional, we sold our house because we knew we were going to move, right? And so we wanted to make sure that like one step was taken care of. So we sold our house. We got rid of almost everything. We have a small storage unit. And a friend of mine, we were sort of like talking and she sort of joked because I was like, I don't have a place to live. And she was like, well, if you ever need a place to crash, let me know. And so we were sort of talking about, like, how long would you want somebody to crash at your house? And we like had a very honest conversation. She had a 4-bedroom house. She had 2 girls, but they were going to both be in college. And so we worked it out and we moved in with my friend and, paid her rent and like lived with her from August until June when we moved out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that worked out though. Like, I mean, cause then you didn't have to deal with any of the selling or the house stuff.
Right.
That was already done. So that's a lot of less,
it was already
less
done.
stress.
It was so good because leaving that house, like I said, that neighborhood was something that we really enjoyed being in. It was sort of like that neighborhood we'd always wished we'd moved in, and we'd only lived there. I think it was less than 5 years, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it was a short time, and so we became very attached to the neighborhood. So selling the house was very stressful. So I'm really glad we did it when we did, because that gave us a year to just focus on getting our stuff ready and moving to Portugal, wrapping up stuff in Illinois, because if we had sold the house and retired and moved to Portugal, I'm not really sure I mentally could have figured that out.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
It is a lot. And my friend was, I mean, it was really great. I worked at the same school as my husband. She worked at the same school. So it just became, it was like logistically, it couldn't have been better. And my friend is amazing. Like it just really all worked out. I'm so thankful for it, actually.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
So you ended up keeping, do you still have the storage unit back in the States?
We do. Yeah. It's very tiny. It's like a 10 by 10, and it's near her. And I said, if you need to ever go to it, here's the key. Here's how you get in, and be careful. Because at the last minute, we're just like shoving everything.
Yeah.
Done. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the plan for that storage unit?
So like we have like future plans. I have a daughter and granddaughters in Washington. We've talked about like building like a little mother-in-law quarter. They call it ADU in her backyard. That's something we've talked about. And so it would go there. I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know that there's anything there that I would want to bring here. You know what I mean? So like if it ended up where we were just here and we didn't have a place in the United States that would house it, like, cause I even think about, you know, maybe they could use it for a rental property or something. They could have that furniture. It's really not a lot of furniture. We got rid of everything except like a couch and our bed. And then like it's dishes and, you know, we don't have a lot of furniture. We really don't have a lot of stuff. We could probably get rid of most of it and be fine.
Yeah. So some people wonder, like, should I do a storage unit? Should I sell it, or should I pay to ship it over? How come you chose to do a storage unit as opposed to just getting rid of it completely or shipping it over? Yeah.
So I think not getting rid of it completely is because really like our plan is that we are committed to staying here in Portugal for 2 years. And then after 2 years, we'll assess, do we want to continue and stay here, or is it not working out? Or let's say we both have parents that are older, right? So you just don't know. It was hard. That was one of the decisions I think that was hard, is like aging parents, what kind of responsibility do we have? And so I think we're just had that there just in case the moving back to the United States was necessity. Mm-hmm. And then I honestly though, like within a month, we were like, what is in there?
Yeah.
You know, like, do we need to keep that? I don't know. So
yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you just pay a monthly fee to have it in there. And especially that's a good mentality to have. Like, we're just going to do this for 2 years because you got that residency for 2 years, a temporary one. And then go from there. It doesn't have to necessarily be like, I moved to Portugal and that's it. I can never go back to the States. I can never move somewhere different. Because sometimes I think people think, oh, this is it. This is going to be it. This is going to be like my life. It's okay to change, right? Right. Because I changed to come here. There was another plan there too, right? But just leaving options open, I think. Yeah. And we live in like the time that we live in right now, it's a lot easier to make that change than it used to be even 20 years ago. Yeah. So having that open mindset about it. Yeah. So you're happy to be in Braga. Would you say that there is another place around Portugal that you would want to try out? Or like now that you're in Braga, you're like, I'm good? So I'm glad Jamie's not actually here, although he knows it. I still have that desire to be by the ocean. I don't know what it is. I just want to be by water. And yes, Braga has some river beaches. And, not the same, though, I'll go visit them. It's not the same. Like that sound of the waves. It's actually healing for me. And so I told him the other day, I was like, you know, we retired and we moved here and we have this opportunity that we can even go and live by the ocean. So
we went to Vienna do Castelo one day to go check it out. I'm like, let's just go. We did not do very good research, and so we got there, and there was this big, huge festival. It's like one of the biggest ones they have in the year, and there's parades and just a bajillion people. And we participated in some of that, and then we went for a walk. I'm like, let's just walk to the ocean, because I'm just thinking it's this small town, even though I've watched the videos, and you can just walk to the ocean. Well, we never saw the ocean. And so we both were like, we need to like reassess before we go somewhere and like check
research
like,
a little bit,
get there, and that was it. Maybe do a little research on how you get there. So we're gonna go there and spend like even overnight just to see what it's like. Another place that I'm considering, or that we're both considering, is Villa de Conde, which you also just did a video on, which I appreciated. And I liked that one. I like both of them actually, because they're by the water. It's not like there's a ton of people that come to visit us, but Villa de Conde is clearly easier if, for transportation, right?
Yeah.
And for getting to an airport. So
yeah, it's connected to the Porto Metro, and then it's also north with the airports north of Porto, so it's close to it as well.
Right. So those are two that are like on our list, but like ever since I was like, oh, we should maybe look at other places too. And that's something that we wanted to do anyway. It's one other reason to move to Portugal is to travel around Portugal, right?
Yeah.
So we have like a list of places, and we have some people coming in. Some friends are coming in March, and they want to go to like Nazaré, and so we're gonna maybe even do some, we call it research, for their trip, but see like, is that someplace else that we would maybe want to consider? So I love Braga. I don't want to say I'm not going to stay in Braga. We've already made some friends here. I know that seems crazy. You've only been here 2.5 months, 3 months, but it already would be kind of hard because we've made some relationships, but at the same time, we just got here too. So
yeah, definitely. You still have time to explore. And it's interesting that you talk about the water, because Josh and I recently shot a video, and actually by the time this podcast comes out, it probably will already be on our Expats Everywhere channel. If not now, then soon. But it's an apartment that has a view of the Douro River. So we were able to go into this apartment, and we talk about like the water, the same things you were saying, like for people, we're drawn to water, and whatever it might be, like it's just better for us mentally or physically or the psychology behind it. And so Josh was doing research on like different books that were written, and different scientists who have done research on like the benefits, the health benefits actually of water, whether that's being in it or just being able to see it. And so this beautiful apartment has this balcony that you can see the Douro River from, and there's something just like calming about it that just does something to you. So can you imagine like living there, so you get to see this view every day, and it just helps with stress levels and everything. So yes, water is very powerful in many different ways, but one of the things is like you're talking about, just being able to see it and be around it. It's just good for you mentally.
Yeah, it is. And then so even when we were in Maine, my sister-in-law lives near the ocean, so I'm like, all the activities that were happening, and I'm like, but do we get to go to the ocean? And just to like walk along the water, feet in the water, sand. I don't like to swim. I'm actually afraid of the water with regards to swimming, which is a little crazy. I like to go in a kayak if it's like super chill. So it's kind of funny that like I'm a little bit afraid, but also it is 100% healing for me. Just amazing feeling when I'm here, when I'm there, when I'm hearing it, seeing it, as long as I'm not in it.
As long as you're not, it's not engulfing you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Have you been to any of the river beaches around Braga?
So when we were here last time, we had, it was a couple of years ago, 2022, we had our kids came, it was in the summer, and our grandkids, and we went to one of the river beaches, which is, I mean, it's amazing. There's all these, like there's a cafe, and there's like the jumpy things, and you can rent kayaks, and people just hung out by the beach, and then you can just walk around. It's just beautiful. It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, they're nice. They're nice. It's just different. It's different than, it has a totally different feel than the beach, right? It's calmer, it's warmer,
it does. Yeah.
But it's a different feel. Yeah, it's definitely warmer. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. That's great.
It's on my list.
So you've been here just a few months. Any regrets so far?
I missed 2 of my skirts that didn't make the cut.
Are they in the storage?
Yes.
The storage unit?
We didn't bring a lot. We brought like 2 big suitcases, 2 carry-ons, and then 1 like box. So we were weighing everything, right? And whatever. So I mean, it's kind of funny, and yes, I've bought a couple outfits since we've been here. Regrets moving? No, I don't at all. I really don't. I'm glad we did it because we're sort of known for like having all these wild plans and never following through. Okay. So like one time we talked about going, and Jamie actually got a job offer to teach in South Korea. So we were going to move to South Korea, and then I was in grad school, so we decided not to do that. And then one time we were going to build a house in Lake Tahoe because we lived in Illinois. We had friends in California. We lived in California for a while, and so we've had lots of these these huge plans. Even at a goodbye party, one of my friends said to me, "I didn't think you guys were actually going to follow through." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. Sometimes I didn't think we were either." So I'm actually like grateful that we're here, and I don't regret it because we followed through. And even though sometimes it's hard, or whatever, you run into the language issues or whatever, I'm very grateful that we are here.
Do you have any advice for someone who is in the same stage of life as you, who is getting ready to retire, planning on moving abroad? Anything that you would say, do this before or be aware of this?
I think that one of the things might be like just making peace with yourself that some people are going to be disappointed. Like everyone seemed really positive. My father-in-law, one of them, I love him dearly. And he's always been pretty like low key, not giving us any advice. He'll like listen to us, but he wouldn't say like this, right? But shortly before we were leaving, he'd drop a couple comments like, I'll feel bad. I won't see your face all the time. Aww. Right. And I was like, oh, that's hard. Yeah. And so we've set up FaceTime calls with him. So we have regular FaceTime calls.
So he can see your face.
He can see my face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had talked for years about like going out to see my daughter and living there, near there. And now we're not, so like, there's some things that I would say that like either plans that we had made or just making sure like people understood why we wanted to do it maybe, and then having peace that not everyone's going to be throwing you a party. Some people are going to be sad or disappointed, and that's okay. Like I think it's real. It's what's real, right?
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, at Expats Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms lives. So how has living abroad transformed your life?
Yeah, and I think about this question, right? And we've only been here 2.5 months, except that it really has. It's like given us a perspective, and that's one of the reasons why we came. We wanted to experience another culture, and not just experience it, but actually be a part of it. And I think that being in Portugal is allowing us to have that different perspective, and then being able to share it. So I'm looking forward to friends coming and us vacationing, not just as tourists, but as let me show you the country that I live in, right? And then in 2022, when my grandkids were here, it was like 9:30 at night. My daughter and the oldest grandkid and I were walking to a concert, because you do that, in the summer in Portugal. Yeah. And she was walking ahead of us a little bit, and and I got a picture of it. And it's just one of my favorite pictures because she looks so confident, right? And so by me being able to be here and experience this, so when they come to visit or when I am there and I'm talking about it, I can broaden her like worldview and provide these opportunities for her that I didn't have as a kid, right? And so I think that that's been one of the other things that's important to me, is to not just learn, but then to share with others.
Yeah, cool. Well, Leanne, thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thank you.